The thing about franchising is that, and I think it's certainly a myth, and I have to overcome that, is I'm going to become a franchise owner. It's a proven process. I have automatic success. No, you got to work it. Yeah, you have the tools and the processes to create your success. You have to execute. And that's what it's really all about. It's executing to gain market share using a proven business model.
Hey guys, welcome back to More Clients, Less Effort. Today, I'm joined by Rick Morgin from the Franchise Consulting Company in California. Rick is a franchise consultant who has helped qualified people into business ownership. Whether you want to build an asset, build an empire, be your own boss, create an additional income stream, or keep your job while developing your business on the side, Rick is able to help you coach you through the process. In addition, Rick has resources under his ecosystem to help business develop a franchise system to expand their brand through franchising. So a topic we haven't covered before. Rick, welcome to the show, mate.
Well, thank you for the intro, Tim. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be on your show. And I appreciate it. And let's go for it.
It's good to have you here. Now we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different topics, but tell me about your journey into franchising yourself. I know that sort of back in 2015, you were going through a career transition yourself. Tell me how you got into franchise consulting.
When I describe it, I describe it as opportunity and luck, because I was going through a career transition, but I also had a mindset of, is there anything else out there I can do and take all this experience and accomplishment I built up and apply it for myself to be an entrepreneur? I came from a family of entrepreneurs. They were in farming and California. I had thought about it in the early 2000s and wasn't ready. But now here I am in 2015, and I'm ready, because kind of doing it in parallel with a job search, but this entrepreneurial mindset starts to take over. And I happen to go to a networking meeting that I go to every month, and there's a woman who is a member of the networking group, but I've never met before, and she's got her business in the franchise industry, and the light bulb goes off. What is this about?
Yeah. Well, it's sliding doors moments.
I mean, it took a few, 2-3 months to investigate that this is what I wanted to do. Then I made my leap from my paycheck world to my 1099 or independent contractor world.
Yeah. How long had you been an employee for?
That's how I got here. Let's start.
How long had you been an employee at that stage?
Oh, shoot. Over 30 years.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's the change.
Years, yeah.
I'm curious to know, because a lot of people been in this and they've always wanted to do their own thing, but perhaps had the reluctance or unwillingness to do so, to leap into their own business. And I know certainly some of my mates are in the same position. They look at what I do and go, you're absolutely crazy, but then they really dislike their jobs. What sort of mindset or courage does it take to leap out of a 30-year corporate career, presumably with the golden handcuffs and the decent paycheck and everything that comes along with that sort of longevity, and decide that I'm going to do this other thing on the side?
Well, you think of a great corporate career, there's still limitations, right? You're on a salary, and you don't really necessarily control your own time. So the thought of, hey, I can build something to exceed maybe in multiples of what I was earning, and I have the flexibility of my time, and I can take the same or less time and build something for myself. Why not? It's a risk. And it is a risk, because there's no guarantee I could go back into the corporate world. I mean, I have clients who will say, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always get a job. I don't think had that luxury. I was doing this in parallel, this mindset of entrepreneurship, and continuing my corporate career in parallel. And the more I thought about it, the more I investigated doing something for myself, that completely took over. It's a matter of, really digging deep and say, oh, hey, I haven't failed yet. Sure, I made some mistakes in my corporate career, but I haven't really failed at the position, or I've always grown. Why can't I continue on? So it's really comes down to a belief that you can do it, and you're motivated to do it, and that's why.
Yeah. What was the biggest realization when you stepped in that full time? What was the first epiphany for you?
The epiphany was, or the fear factor was, hey, I got to develop my own structure. I mean, I've been trained, but then here I have to go fill in the blanks of these components of what I've been trained for. And that's the work I have to do. I've spent years building a network through job, and related industries and partners. Now I got to take that skill and kind of increase it exponentially to create the flow, to develop the prospects in the pipeline, have them go through the pipeline, and eventually do the deal as a franchise consultant. So that was finding that structure, learning from others on what they do, trying different things, and then, all right, this is what works for me.
Franchises are known for their structure. Someone's going to leap from corporate to, another business or so on. Franchises are known for, I guess, having that structure in a box, and always the case.
Pretty much. I mean, whether it's a new emerging brand or a mature brand, they've done things to prove their model and create the excitement around the brand and indicate that a franchise owner, a franchisee can make money, but some are more structured than others. Some within the franchise contract will dictate you have to buy your supplies from these vendors. Others are a little more flexible, but following that proven path is critical. When more people have gotten in trouble as far as their business, going in the right direction is when they veer off or think they know more than the founders of the business who have experienced a lot of mistakes and then corrected them.
So that's what you're really buying when you buy a franchise, isn't it? It's buying that sort of, this is a model that we know works because we've tried it before, rather than starting something completely from scratch and going, let me try it out.
Yeah, I always encourage, that's a question that comes up is, why don't I do this myself? And I always encourage, well, let's create our research and compare. Here's the cost and time to open a franchise. Here's the cost and time to do the same thing, starting from scratch. Let's see which wins out. Let's see what has more support. The thing about franchising is that, and I think it's certainly a myth, and I have to overcome that, is I'm going to become a franchise owner. It's a proven process. I have automatic success. No, you got to work it. Yeah, you have the tools and the processes to create your success. You have to execute. And that's what it's really all about. It's executing to gain market share using a proven business model.
Yeah.
And that, you're giving up a small portion of your revenue to tie into those proven systems and methodologies and any technological platform or marketing service, on and on. And that's what you have to weigh. Is 6% of my revenue worth, giving up 6% of my revenue worth joining this franchise family?
Is that typical, about 6%? If someone was looking to buy into a franchise, is 6%?
I think typical is 6 to 8%.
Okay.
Some of the thought types of franchises, like business coaching or executive leadership, franchises dealing with for the finance arena, it may be more, but the income margins are bigger, so you can absorb the higher royalty payment.
Yeah. What should someone look for, either when they're thinking about a franchise or thinking of franchising? Let's put that into two questions. If I was to give up my day job right now and say, I'm going to go and launch a franchise, I'm going to go and buy a franchise, what are the things that I should be aware of?
Well, you should be aware of, here in the US, I think that's Australia, there's a type of disclosure document here. We call it the franchise disclosure document. So that gives you a tremendous amount of information. So it's really research, but that initial document of the FDD will talk about any litigation or bankruptcies that organization has gone through. They have to disclose that, I guess step one. But it's really, you're working through a very diligent process, and you let information come to you. I always say to clients, don't have preconceived notions. So, you're reading through the FDD, could be some red flags. You have the opportunity to speak with franchise owners, being in business for a different number of years. That starts to either solidify your impression that I can do this, or there's red flags. Then in letting that information come to you and you developing your questions and getting them answered, you want to know and get a great feeling that you're going to be properly trained and you're going to be supported long after you sign. You don't want to be signed and then it kind of stops and you're left on your own. That's not, in the US there are over 4,000 franchise brands, and they're not all created equal. I think we work with the best of the best who have great support systems because they know the consequences of failure. And because if there's a failure in a system, especially if it's early on with that emerging brand, that could make or break the longevity of their franchise because they have to disclose that issue, that problem. It's really, I think if you're looking to buy into a franchise system, the cues that you're looking for are responsiveness and transparency by the franchisor. If you get the feeling that they're hiding something, like they don't want you to speak with certain franchise owners, or you don't want to have one-on-ones with franchise owners, they want you to stick with recorded webinars, that could give you the idea of, all right, what's going on here? So those are the things. And then, I have a client, who I was referred to them by somebody I knew I had known for a long time. And in our first conversation, I thought, oh, yeah, referral, it's going to be a good, solid business. They were just seeking my opinion on a franchise that they were investigating, and they had presented the FDD and other information to their attorney to look it over, help them understand the legal aspects. And they came back with a bunch of red flags, and they wanted me to validate is this report, is this accurate? And one of the red flags was the franchise company hadn't protected their brand. So he moves. Well, and then there were other red flags within the agreement. So it was really able to pivot. I was able to present them with a franchise concept that they really like. Franchisor really likes them. They've gone through all of the validation steps. So it's that was an issue of transparency. I think your feeling of transparency, and will that carry over to you being supported by not only the headquarters but also your peers as franchise owner?
That's good. That's good. Let's pivot, mate. I want to talk to you a little bit about your system in terms of your business. Right? And so you're looking for people in your business who either want to start a franchise, want to buy a franchise, as you were just describing there, an existing franchise, or businesses who are looking to take their proven concept and franchise it, right? And sell it as a franchise. And you've already identified some of the things that, people need to think about. But how do you use LinkedIn quite extensively to sort of work with your clients? Talk to me about the system in terms of how you approach using LinkedIn.
Because I'm working with to outsource the outreach through LinkedIn. In one of the companies, we can create campaigns. So if I'm looking for entrepreneurs within LinkedIn, there are groups within LinkedIn that we can craft messages, and the messaging, the response after a reply is automated, and it's leading to a connection and then a conversation, so that appointment's on my calendar. Occasionally that the response or the question asked from my message is unusual and requires my interjection, and so the process flips that to me, puts it right in my email inbox, and I can go in and respond. The process, the automated messaging process, and I'm sure it's got some sort of AI incorporated into it, learns from that response and then can continue on if it gets to something similar. But again, it's something more complex doesn't conform. It's flipped to me so I can respond directly and start that communication. That I'm not the expert in doing that and setting that up on my own. So through my network, I was able to talk to companies and found one that was comfortable in saying, okay, let's work together these campaigns to generate leads, to get the appointments that will eventually turn into deals.
Yeah. Do you put much of your own content on LinkedIn?
I do some of my own, pardon me?
I was saying, do you do much of your own content on LinkedIn as well?
I do.
Yeah.
The franchise consulting company owns an online magazine, the Franchise Journal, and I'll write articles for the Franchise Journal. In fact, there's an Australian New Zealand edition of that Franchise Journal, which my colleague who lives in New Zealand, he manages that. So when I do write an article, I can take that content and post it on LinkedIn, or I can post the link to the magazine on LinkedIn. That's one example. We'll market. We also own a trade show company called the Great American Franchise Expo. They do at least 12 expos a year in a calendar year. So I will craft my own marketing to drive registration to those expos, producing those type of leads. That's the primary marketing on my own, other than, reposting, commenting that I do. Those are examples.
Yeah. I think LinkedIn's a massively underutilized resource for a lot of businesses, because it's very easy to identify, the who, right? We've certainly got the positioning in terms of your, how you've written your profile out. And I'd suggest people go and look at Rick's because it's a great profile. The presence in terms of putting expert content up, collecting the audience, right? Going to groups of people who are interested in franchising. You can find those on LinkedIn, right? And then those are your people. And then the conversation part is the last piece, right? So, PPPC, right? People, positioning, presence.
Yes, that's right. I mean, with LinkedIn, I do use Sales Navigator, which allows me to filter even more specific audiences, and part of that is to develop an outreach through that service to people who are being displaced.
Okay, question for you, because this is something that comes up in conversation about outreach, whether it be on any social media platform, whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. How aggressive are you with your messaging? Is it very much, I saw you doing this. Are you interested in doing some franchising or having a conversation about franchising? See you later. Or are you a little bit more, hey, how you going?
Yeah, it's more of the latter.
Why do you take that approach rather than a direct response approach?
The conversation about franchising comes up either in message 2 or message 3. So it's creating the connection, trying not to be overtly waste time by it. I'm getting to my point. We have a connection. Do you mind connecting? I see from your profile that you have entrepreneurial characteristics. You've been successful. You ever thought about doing something on your own? Let's talk about franchising. Something like that. So it's not the first one. It's mostly the second message after they've agreed to connect. No, because they've agreed to connect, but they've also looked at my profile. It's pretty overt that I'm in the franchise world and have been in for, several years. So that alone will generate, I'm not interested, thanks, we're not interested. And then that generates the automated response of, no, understand, things change, you know where to find me.
Yeah, I think it's a really valuable thing there to look at, when you're connecting people. Look at also, and LinkedIn will help you do this, unlike, say, Insta and Facebook. LinkedIn has a feature where you can actually go and look who is viewing your profile and how they find you, right? And whether it's a direct connection, whether it's something through a LinkedIn search, through a related search, right? It actually says, if you click on your network in LinkedIn, up to a separate session, there's a little bit of a masterclass on how to use LinkedIn sometime, but you can certainly go and see who's looking inbound at your profile from connection requests. And if people are looking at your profile, well, that's an indication that they're interested in potentially who you are and what you do. And that's the opportunity to start that conversation, isn't it, Rick?
It is. I even get notifications. You appeared in 14 searches yesterday. See who, so it makes it even.
Yeah. Who was searching for franchise consultants?
Right. So I think it's a very powerful tool. Maybe you feel the same, but when your first message that you receive is about buy this, no, thank you. Let's make it, let's make it a little more conversational and interesting.
Yep. Let's get to know each other. Buy me a drink first.
Right. So
ask my name, buy me a drink first, and then we can have 14 kids.
Right. Yeah. That's why I like that approach.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a fantastic platform and great one for that. And I actually really like your use of groups there, Rick, to actually go out and find, groups of like-minded people on LinkedIn who are interested in the topic, not just what role they are, but following particular business topics as well. And LinkedIn's a fantastic platform for that. Let's do this, mate. We normally finish off the show just pivoting into some random questions. Now, we might get a little bit personal here because I know you've had to deal with a great deal of grief and personal challenges over the last 2 years with your wife passing from cancer and facing prostate cancer yourself this year. How are you tackling, what's been the biggest challenge and how are you sort of dealing with the resilience of those sort of personal challenges?
Yeah, my wife passed away in August of last year, and she had been dealing with cancer this particular cancer, the one that eventually ended her life, for about 8 years. 8 years. She was her best self advocate, but then her health really started to fail in late fall of 2022. And I became her caregiver for the remaining 8.5 months up until August 4th of last year. I got to say that the first month was just still waking up every day doing what I can, but just feeling numb, just numb and trying to figure out why, how do I carry on, what do I need to do today, compartmentalize that. And then it started to lift. The fog started to lift, as we got into September and did her celebration of life thing, and then started to plan out the celebration of events that were meaningful to us and, of course, to her. My wedding anniversary. We got a small group of family together. Her birthday, January 7th. And of course, 1 year anniversary, August 4th of this year. And then I was, I'm a certain age. I'd go through my medical checkups every year, and I'm at the age you check your prostate regularly. And all of a sudden, I'm at a trade show in Las Vegas at the end of March, and I had a biopsy maybe a week before, and I get the call on the trade show floor, Rick, you have prostate cancer. And our symptoms are going to be pretty aggressive. So we're going to start this treatment plan right away. So the treatment started April 9th, and we're still in the first phase of the treatment. Second phase is in October 18th. I'll go through a surgical procedure where radioactive seeds are placed on the cancer cells. And then down the road after that, probably late December, January will be phase 3. And by then, I'm expecting to be cancer-free. I really am. But even with the expectation of cancer-free is WTF. Why me? What the hell is going on inside of my body? So back in April, I just decided to use TikTok to chronicle my journey through prostate cancer. But that's all I've been using TikTok for, other than watching the reels and stuff like that. I don't use it as a platform. But I was able to keep it separate. So I just been updating. Here's whatever phase, how I'm feeling. I meant to do a short last Friday because it would be 2 weeks away, but then I forgot about it. Then I was going to do one 10 days. I forgot to do it. So this Friday, I'm going to make a concerted effort to post my next update because it's a week away. Then we'll see. The procedure is supposed to be pretty early in the morning on the 18th, so I'm actually going to do one going in.
Well, there we go, mate. You might have inadvertently found a new career as an advocate for prostate cancer and prostate cancer awareness for men through your TikTok channel. That's really awesome. But yeah, I think absolutely a tough thing, and just even to sort of put it in context with the business. The more systemized the business is, the more likely you are to be able to take time out to deal with personal challenges as and when they come up. So commend you on your resilience and bringing awareness to such an important issue. Let's do this. If you want to go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice that you've learned throughout your life, what would that be?
I agree. Even though it really isn't 100% necessary, it's the experience. It would certainly I wouldn't change that. But beyond my 18-year-old, during your 4 years of college, really think hard about entrepreneurship. Think about what your uncles, your father, your grandfather have done to build this agricultural business, what they take, sacrifice, and what their end result is in being able to provide for me and my brothers and sisters and sending us to this college and all that. And if it's worth doing that right away, instead of waiting 30 plus years to figure it out. I work with more younger and younger people who, hey, I got my 9 years of corporate experience. I'm going to take that, and I don't want to devote all my time to helping others make money. I'm going to do it for myself, and I think I've got the what it takes and the knowledge to start something. So I would have encouraged my younger self to think about entrepreneurship at a much earlier age and go from there.
Yeah, awesome. What gives you the motivation to keep going?
Fun, people, at my own time. It's a lot of fun dealing with people, even if they don't do the deal. I always help them in some way, and even if they don't become a client or a candidate, I help them some way. People make this business. It is a relationship business. It's the relationships you have with your candidates, the relationships you develop with your franchise companies and the peers, and the support you can get through that whole thing. It's franchising is a small world. It is a niche, but it's also big. And the size and economic output, not just in the U.S., but globally. That's why I do it.
Yeah, I love that. What do you wish everyone understood about your job?
Well, my role, my job,
yeah,
is that when I first discovered that there is this world within franchising, don't come to entrepreneurship, especially franchising, with a preconceived notion. Take the time to come with a whiteboard and work with a consultant to help you figure out which areas of that whiteboard are worth exploring.
That's right. That's a good one. All right, let's wrap it up there, Rick. Fantastic, mate. And I really appreciate you sharing. Good luck with your surgery, which I know is in a couple of weeks' time. And I hope that goes really well for you. Guys, if you want to know more about Rick, please reach out and connect with him if you're interested in franchising or want to franchise your business, want either buy one or start one. If you're in the US, you can text Rick, so R-I-C-K, to 26786 to get a copy of Rick's Franchise MBA. It's an Amazon best-selling book on franchising. So you can do that. If you're outside of the US, that won't work. So you'll have to actually sort of get in touch with Rick at the franchiseconsultingcompany.com. We'll put the links for those in the show notes as well. But Rick, really appreciate you sharing some of your journey, how you're systemizing and approaching your client and acquisition as well, and sharing some of those insights with us today.
You're very welcome, Tim. And again, I appreciate being a guest on your podcast. I thank you for the opportunity and the platform to let me tell my journey, both professionally and personally.
My pleasure. Guys, thanks again for joining us on today's show. We've got some more shows coming up real soon. Lots of exciting stuff that we're going to be sharing on different businesses and how they are systemizing their client acquisition, conversion, and retention. I hope you get a lot from those. If you know somebody who would be interested in hearing about the show, please share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff through your favorite streaming platform. And we'll catch you on another episode real soon. Take care.